Hello everyone, my name is Sarah and I'm here today to talk to you about The Path by Tale of Tales. Once upon a time, there was a dear little girl who was loved by everyone she met, but most of all by her grandmother. Once she gave the girl a cap of red velvet which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else, and so she was always called... Well, I think you already know this story. A little girl, a feeble grandmother, a hungry wolf, and a warning: stay on the path no matter what. It's the same warning woven into almost every Western fairy tale when you think about it, each one hiding more disturbing implications. Except that, just as in reality, straying from the path is the key to making sure any story happens at all, and finding the ending to this one, in spite of the consequences, was, in my mind, the only real choice I could make. The Path is a 2007 game created by Tale of Tales. There are 6 characters, all girls, and the goal is simple: follow the path to grandmother's house, stay away from the woods that gather around you like the bars of a cage, and arrive in one piece. Watch out for wolves, for there are many, in all shapes and forms that dwell in the shadows. Sounds simple enough, but beware that once you've left the path, you can't go back to it easily. Why Grandmother Hood chose to settle down in what feels very much like a woodland founded by the Silent Hills Parks and Recreational Team is anybody's guess. The path has its flaws from a mechanical standpoint. Not to mention, people raised valid questions. Why is it that in such historical stories, a character, more often than not female, will be taken, presented with wonder, and then punished when they explore the mystery? Still, I found the game at least attempted to answer some of the questions. You just have to know where to look. The Path is a game steeped in the lore of fairies, and we're not talking these saccharine sweet characters of popular fiction, no, we're talking real fairies. The Fae, fair folk, Lian Shi, the subject of myths, legends, and above all, warnings. Little Red Riding Hood is a fairy tale, even though it seems to lack any actual fairies, because it fits the mould of that warning. The Fae are commonly believed to be inhuman, not immoral per se so much as amoral. They steal human children and feed on them. They invite us into woodland halls, play with us, dine us with florid banquets, and then dance us to death because they love us and want to be with us forever. That makes sense, right? I mean, they always say you hurt the ones you love. Doesn't usually lead to death over the canopies, though. Just like their inspiration, the girls of the path are bound to this same story. Taking the hand of each girl, you interact with different landmarks, each of which contain a story, unique to each child. Some will only activate if encountered with the right person, and for clarity's sake I will refer to these as the girl in question's true landmarks. Only by finding these true landmarks will you find the wolves, frightening and sometimes questionable, though those wolves might be. Some stories drew me from the path more easily than others. A girl as fiery as her name. The first time I played the path, I chose Ginger, and upon starting, as any player would, I completely ignored instruction and veered off the path into the forest. Within a few minutes, I encountered the campground. This is not really one of Ginger's true landmarks. It won't lead her anywhere, but still, she made herself at home. Ginger is the sort of child who I feel would stray from the path the first chance she got. An explorer, a collector, a climber. Many of the girls have nothing to say when you meet a landmark that isn't theirs, but Ginger is almost never quiet. Her involvement with the world is boisterous and tactile. But it was at this camp that I first encountered the game's most interesting subject. The girl in white is seen in glimpses. She acts as a protector, maybe a saviour. There are hints that she might be the original, Red Riding Hood, rescued from the wolf by her father, given that she hangs around the woodcutter's campsite as if she belongs there. Her backstory is a mystery, but she clearly knows something about what's going on in these woods, because if you catch her, the girl in white will take your hand and lead you back to the path. This is the only way to do so. You can't return on your own once you've strayed a certain distance away. She did this on my first playthrough, leading Ginger to safety before vanishing again. Still not understanding what was going on, I followed the path the rest of the way to Grandmother's, travelled through her home in a surreal, disorienting perspective that reminded me of sedation, and sat with her on the bed. That's how I ended my playthrough as Ginger, except I got it wrong. I played as Ginger again, finding more snippets of identity and story. A graveyard, a butcher's stump, a warped old fence in the woodland. This time, I found what I was looking for. Ginger's true landmark, the cornfield, and there again was the girl in white, except not. This is not the same child who led you to safety. This girl is Ginger's wolf, the creature that lures her from the path, the thing that will eat her up. I'll show you what happens to our friend Ginger in a while. Let's check out someone else's journey a while first. Of all the girls I played as, Rose's story was the most familiar to me, partly because of the mystery that Rosie's wolf represents. In contrast with her sister Ginger, Rosie is quiet, demure, and frankly odd. She's a pacifist, that much is clear. She picks up bullets she finds in the woods so they can't hurt any animals. Rose is strange but gentle. She follows the mist, and even talks to it. Rose's true landmarks lead her here, to the lake, a serene but ominous location. Tale of Tales' environments and the atmosphere they craft are one of the most interesting and beautiful things about this game. The lake, in particular, reminds me of fairy tales, places between where humans don't belong but still seek insatiably. Just as we left the path, even though we were told not to, Rose seeks out the lake in the forest. She climbs into a boat that seems to have been left just for her, and in the middle of the lake she finds a secret she perhaps did not know she was looking for. The beauty of the scene is almost as impossible to describe as it is disturbing. Hey Rose, want to join a banquet? What am I saying? You've already accepted the invitation. This one is perhaps one of the most unnerving stories in the path. Be warned, there are implications of difficult subjects ahead. The Sister Ruby's path is wrapped in loneliness and distance. Distance from the world, her peers, and even her sisters. She appears disabled, wearing a leg brace typical of those suffering chronic injuries or illness, and it limits her movement. Modern media might consider Ruby a gothic stereotype, but it's deeper than it seems. The Japanese have a concept known as mono no aware, simply put, the appreciation of the old. The idea that there's a kind of beauty in things aging and rusting over that new things cannot possess. Even as morbid as she seems, Ruby appears very much to believe in this concept. I understand where Ruby's coming from. I like old things too, things that are a little worn down by love and time. But Ruby's wolf is especially unsettling. You encounter him, for this wolf takes a male human form, dragging a suspicious-looking carpet through the forest. It's probably the bluntest of all the girl's encounters. Though she witnesses the carpet, the man does not appear to frighten Ruby. Maybe nothing does. Maybe she's seen enough of fear to silence it within herself. On the contrary, Ruby seems drawn to him. She sits with him in the park, which is, incidentally, one of her youngest sister Robin's intended landmarks, and the man hands her a cigarette. Danger, darkness, and smoking. All the things grandmother warned you about. But then, that's the overarching theme of the path, isn't it? What happens when you stray from doing what you're told? And what does happen to the girls once you return from their encounters in the forest? Well, this is where it starts to get surreal again. Unlike her pale-dressed counterpart, Ginger's encounter with the girl in red ends disturbingly, with Ginger lying at the gateway to grandmother's house, the rain pounding around her. Ruby's story ends similarly, and who knows for sure what happens with Rose's wolf, though the outcome is the same. Your movement from this point on is stunted. It takes an age to walk the path and enter grandmother's house, but there's really nowhere else to go. and once inside there's no relief from your confusion. The player, along with each girl, is dragged through a surreal, symbolism-loaded corridor. What in the first playthrough was a simple house with a few peculiar rooms is now free for exploration. More doors open with every wolf you encounter. Grandma puts it best: wolves lurk in every guise, and the sweetest tongue has the sharpest tooth. I will admit to skepticism, because this happens a lot to women in fiction, especially fairy tales. Curiosity met with unfair and often brutal punishment, but still, they survived. We tend to do that as well. I played this game as every girl and was left wondering, is this just some stereotypical fairy tale inspired punishment, or is it something more? What is the wolf anyway? Is it danger? Some kind of coming of age metaphor? Something to be hidden from? Maybe something dark and destructive but unavoidable, maybe even wanted and attainable. There's a distinctly fey aftertaste to everything we see in the forest. Fragmented symbols that make it feel like this world is not to be trifled with, but also not to be ignored. The French have a term for what we're seeing: l'appel de void, or the call of the void. It's the urge we have that draws us to leap into the dark even when we know what it will do. All of the girls interact differently with their wolves, but all of them are pulled to it, as inevitable as Little Red Riding Hood. And if they didn't choose to stray, there wouldn't be a story. Each girl leaves the path, and each of them vanishes from the opening of the game, no longer playable, until the game is complete. And what happens when there are no girls left in the family home? You'll have to play for yourself to find out. I've played it myself a few times, and I still can't say for sure I know exactly what was going on. The whole game is padded with symbolism that either works for you or doesn't, but you do have to consider that someone had to create the path to grandmother's in the first place, and grandmother chose to live in the woods. To do that, they had to head into complete unknown, perhaps confronting wolves, even more dangerous than the girls. The most resounding question for me, and one I still haven't answered, is who is the girl in white? Why is she there to play with every child and guide them to the limited safety of the path? And who's the red-dressed foil you encounter in Ginger's story? Are they connected, two halves of the same whole? What did Rose find in the lake? What on earth was that surreal jaunt through grandmother's house even about? The game never answers these questions, but still, I was left with the same uneasy feeling I'd had since the game began. Still, I kept following. I wanted to know what happened. I wanted to know the truth, regardless of how awful or frightening the truth might be, because the truth, to me, is always a thing worth searching for. Maybe in that sense, I was led from the path as easily as they were. And maybe that's the destiny of everyone, regardless of who or what they are. If you stay on a path, you miss the story. And what's life without a little risk? Another thing I want to note is that each of the characters had their own Livejournal accounts. Yeah, I know, right? It was 2007. Updated it until the release of the game, so if you want more information and tidbits of backstory about the characters, you can check those out in the links below. Thank you for listening to this video, and I hope to see you next time.